guys, this is Comic Uno and Comic Frontline, and today I am doing Comic Uno episode 64, and this is a show where I review all the comics I read this week in one show. So let's get started. 22 comics this week. A lot of comics I read, and you're going to see a trend with that for September because of Futures End. There's just so many books coming out. Hopefully in October you won't see the same trend. As much as I love reading comics, it is a lot of comics. So September you're going to see that trend, but hopefully it'll trickle down in October a little bit more to get to the average amount of comics. But let's get started. Worst pick of the week, number 22. Just want to make sure I got the grade right. Yes, I do. All right. 22! Batman Eternal, issue 23. Not the best issue. I think it went a little bit down from where it was. It had a really good streak, actually. But next issue is the Stephanie issue, which I'm very excited for. Hopefully we get some good artwork with that. But with this, it was just Catwoman, a little bit of Batman. We get to see Batman deal with the Architect a little bit more, which is like, oh, okay, whatever. And then Catwoman deciding if she should be the leader of the gangs in Gotham, and she's like, nah, I'm not gonna do that. When we've seen in Batman Eternal, she will do that. So what leads that to her being this gang leader? I thought it was okay. You know, I'm just not a big Catwoman fan, so this didn't have a big impact on me, and then the Batman stuff wasn't really that interesting. Even the cliffhanger with Detective Bard, nothing really. You know, I definitely read better issues for Batman Eternal. And also, what really brought this issue down was the really sloppy-ish art. I don't really love the shapes of the characters here. I just did not like the art. This is definitely one of my least favorite art styles for Batman here. It just doesn't work with facial expressions, or at least for Batman Eternal. Show you a couple other pages. I don't know, just not really working out for me. It's just very, having shading in wrong areas, don't really get to see a lot of the facial expressions. A little sloppy, so I'm going to give this 2 stars. So that was okay. As someone that's not a big Catwoman fan, I don't think you need to read this issue, so yeah, didn't enjoy it that much. Alright, let's go to number 21, which is another Batman book. Batman Futures End, issue 1. Really shocked me that this issue is so low. With Batman Futures End, nothing really happens. It's definitely one of the weakest Futures Ends issue I've read. The art's very simple. I think the coloring kind of, I would say, hides the fact that the art's very simple. Just didn't really, a lot of lines, not a lot of detail. Very, very simple art here. Makes it very cluttered. Hopefully I could get that right here. I just don't think it worked for a Batman issue. Maybe it worked better in another type of comic, but did not work for this issue. But what this issue is about is that Batman wants to clone himself because he wants to survive forever, and he goes to LexCorp to get the formula, and he's like, hey, I'm going to clone myself. And he looks so old. It's only 5 years. Come on. Bruce Wayne's what? 30 years old, and you get to see 35-year-old Bruce Wayne look 80. I thought that was super weird. Very weird. The issue you do not need to read. It has nothing to do with Batman. I don't think you don't need it. Like, why does Batman have to clone himself? I don't know. There's no motive. And also, you don't really get to see why Batman is the way he is now. It was dull. There's so much more potential here. Very dull issue. I gotta give this 2.5 stars. Didn't really like Batman this week. But here's the 3D cover, which was kind of cool. Okay. 20. Issue 20 is Avengers Undercover, issue 10. I think this series has been more disappointing towards the end because you can tell they really rushed this series out. There's so much more potential here. And this issue I just didn't like that much. It was really predictable. We get to see Cammy save the day, and that's pretty much it. They defeat the bad guys, and they're like, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. Let's have some food. Let's be regular teenagers. And they do by the end of the issue. Artwork's okay. I think it fits the story. I've gotten used to it. It's a little dark, but I do like the artwork. But overall, the story is just kind of boring. I didn't really care about the villains that much. I think if you read Avengers Arena, you're going to get a little bit more out of this. I personally didn't really read a lot of Avengers Arena, which is a shame, I guess. I've heard it was a really good series, but I just didn't really get into it. But yeah, just kind of generic issue, and with so many issues coming out, I didn't think it was that worth it. It could have been a lot better, this ending, and it just came really quickly. I felt like they tried to squish too much story together. I'm going to give this 2.5 stars. Now we're up to number 19. Right? Yes. Number 19, which is Futures End, issue 19. Another generic issue for Futures End. I think there's only one story that actually pushed it to 3 stars here. We get to see Batman Beyond story, which is like, alright, I really don't care about Batman Beyond here. He's really not doing much. He's trying to look into more of the Brother Eye stuff, which I don't really care about that portion of the story. I care more about the characters for this story, so Batman Beyond story really bored me. But the one that interests me the most is that Lois is ready to out Shazam of being Superman, and spoiler alert, she does. She's like, in the end of the issue, she decides to out Shazam, and how is the world going to react to this? I thought that was a really great moment, and probably the only moment I really enjoyed this issue. And then we also get to see Adam's going crazy. That's cool, I guess. We see where Adam is in the story. I don't really care about Adam that much. But yeah, there was actually a really cool moment between Lana and Deathstroke this issue where they tried to fight off Power Girl. And 50 Sue's like, well, Power Girl's no threat to me. Bye. Even though I'm not a big 50 Sue fan, I thought that scene was one of the better scenes for this issue. I did like that scene. So overall, I thought the art was obviously very consistent. It's been very consistent for the series. And story-wise, I really liked the Lois thing. I don't think it blew my mind, but it was definitely an interesting revelation. But the other stories are kind of boring. I did like the 50 Sue story a lot more than I've been liking it, but again, nothing that blew my mind that much. It's up to you guys if you want to read this. If you're intrigued with the Lois story, I would say go for it. But if you're not, there's nothing much here. Especially that Batman Beyond thing just went on for way too long. It just didn't interest me that as much, this issue. So I'm going to give this 3 stars. Let's move on to number 18, which is Fantastic Four, issue 10. This shocks me how low this is, because this series, one of the issues, I think it was last issue, was almost pick of the week. So very weird how much this issue was a filler. That's why it's so low, especially with so many comics coming out this week. As you can see, there are so many comics just in this episode. And I didn't even get all the Futures End books by any means. So there's a lot of books out there, and I don't think Fantastic Four was worth it this week. It was very much a filler. If you like She-Thing, you might like this issue a lot, because we get to see that a She-Thing interaction, why she is the person she is today. So if you like that character, that's most of the issue, honestly. And also Sue escaping. I guess she's going to try to find her children. That's what's going on with Sue. A really random ending with Mr. Fantastic. Mr. Fantastic finds out that Sue has left to try to find Valerie, I'm guessing. And also, I'm going to mention that Johnny, he's a party boy pretending like everything's fine. But anyway, so Reed's trying to find Sue by one part of the issue, and then he's battling random people by the end of the issue, and finds Scarlet Witch, because he needs a magic type person. So I thought that ending was very weird, because Reed, again, is just in the lab saying, I wonder where Sue is, and then he's in the middle of a battle by the end of the issue. So that was a really weird jump. And again, just kind of fillerish. Not a lot's going on here. Good artwork, but with as many issues that came out this week, I don't think this issue is very much worth it. So I'm going to give it 3 stars. It wasn't a bad issue, but filler issue. Alright, so what are we up to now? We are up to number 17, which is Justice League United, issue 1. Here's your 3D cover. Very cool. Now, the solicits actually put this in the wrong order. This actually did come out in the right order, thank God. I was really scared this is going to be part 2. But in the solicits, like, Justice League United, read Justice League United if you want part 2 of the Justice League story. I'm like, but Justice League comes out next week, so how's this part 2? So it seems like they fixed it, or whatever they did. This is part 1, which is good. I'm glad to see it. Justice League will be part 2. So Justice League's part 2, this is part 1. So, with this issue, we get to see that the Justice League United team has disbanded because of different crazy things that are going on, and everyone got these flashes, and especially Equinox. She gets a flash of Martian Manhunter, and he's trapped. What's going on here? And Equinox tries to get the help of Animal Man. Animal Man's like, I'm done with that. I have to, you know, take care of my child. I have to take care of my family, but I wish you luck. Go to Justice League. She goes to the Justice League. You don't get to see that many familiar faces, but you get to see Cyborg. And they go to Mars to try to find Martian Manhunter. And by the end, we find out who's behind trapping Martian Manhunter is Gorilla Grodd and Captain Atom. So if you're a big Captain Atom fan, then you might really like that ending. Personally, I don't really know much about Captain Atom, so didn't really care that much about the cliffhanger, so I guess that's why I was a little lower here. But honestly, this is a lot better of an issue than I thought it was going to be, honestly, because I thought this was going to be a part 2 of something that part 1 didn't come out. So, I liked it. I liked what was going on with Animal Man. I liked where he's at. I think Lemire writes both of these series, so it makes sense that they're concentrating so much on Animal Man. Love Max singing in this issue, too, where it's like, I could have been a hero. You want me to distract Mom? So I thought that was a really good Maxine moment as someone that's read every issue of the Animal Man New 52, which I really enjoyed Lemire's run on that. So I also like seeing Equinox a stronger hero because obviously she's new to the game in the regular universe and the present time. And now you can see that she's a superhero that's grown into her name and grown into being a hero, which I thought was pretty cool. So I like that. I think it was kind of sad to see a Justice League that you didn't really notice, for me. I think that really brought it down, and why Justice League probably would have been better to have first, to get to know these new characters, or more C-list characters. I mean, the only recognizable people were Flash and Cyborg, and they didn't really do much. They didn't really have that presence. So, I think that brought down the issue a lot for me. Also, the art was okay, a little sketchy at times. Okay artwork. Give you another example of that. It's not really my style. It feels like a little puffy in the faces, so okay art. And I think it's actually the same artwork as World's End. That would actually make a lot of sense. At least when I was reading World's End, it looks kind of the same type puffy artwork. But yeah, this issue, it could add a little bit more, but it actually surprised me a lot. So I'm going to give it 3 stars. I liked it. I think I'm leaning more towards the pick it up of 3 stars, especially if you're reading Justice League United. You definitely get that tie-in, which is great, and a tie-in to Futures End at the same time. So I'd give it 3 stars. I like the issue, but, you know, it didn't blow my mind either. Alright, so what issue are we up to now? We are up to number 16, which is Archer and Armstrong, issue 24. Now, I've been trying to get into Valiant comics, and the last issue I got into was not the issue to pick up, because it was like in the middle of a story arc. Even though it was like issue 1, you had to follow the Valiant universe to understand it. This issue, on the other hand, you really didn't have to. It's a new story of this girl who's kind of an orphan, who became an orphan, and we learned about her father, her family, and her father being a bad guy, but by the end learning that he truly wasn't. And she's gonna have to take care of her sisters. So, I like that story. I think they dug into her origin story really well this issue. Artwork's pretty good too. I think it got a little confusing because you do need to know a little bit about Archer and Armstrong. And for me as a new reader, I didn't know as much, so I didn't get as much for that. But I liked her story. I liked it. I don't know where we're going to see her again. But I like to read a little bit more about her character. I thought she was cool. So I'm going to give it 3 stars. I liked it. But I think you're going to get a little bit more of this if you do read Archer and Armstrong. But it was cool that I was able to pick that up and enjoyed it. Alright, so number 15 is Birds of Prey, issue 1, Futures End. I also have an in-depth review for this on Comic Frontline if you want to check that out. I actually gave this a little lower of a grade on my in-depth review, but as I read all the issues I read this week, I did jump it up a little bit. Just, again, that's kind of how I distinguish my grades from what came out that week. So, Birds of Prey was an okay issue. The art, a little sloppy at times. I'm going to show you an example of that, especially the hairstyles, but it's not bad. I like the art. It's pretty average art. Nothing that blew my mind, but I liked the issue. It was pretty good. Do you need to read this? No. I think you're going to get more of this if you're a New 52 Birds of Prey fan, which I don't know many of them, but I'm sure you're out there. Yeah, so Birds of Prey New 52, it definitely plays off that. I read a couple issues here and there, so I got the gist of how Barbara and Black Canary's relationship is in the New 52. It's definitely not as strong as it was pre-New 52. It's very different. Kind of butt heads a little bit more in the New 52, at least of what I've read, different one-shots I've read, and also I've read the Volume 1. They're just definitely not as good friends as they were, and that kind of disappointed me with the New 52. But with this issue, we get to see that Black Canary's the head of the Red League. She's the replacement for the League of Assassins, and she helps people. It's not a bad league anymore. I mean, she's a tougher person, but she helps people, and she tries to bring down the person that is behind the sex trafficking that a lot of her members of her league are part of. How she saved them was from this sex trade. In this slavery, really. So we get to see that here, and Batgirl doesn't understand the situation, so she goes against Black Canary, and Batgirl is a different Batgirl, which we learn a lot more in the Batgirl Futures End story. So we get to see a Bane Batgirl, and again, you get a lot more from that with the Batgirl Futures End story. Yeah, so we get to see that, and I liked it. I thought it was cool to see Barbara and Black Canary butt heads. I thought it stayed true what the New 52 relationship was, and it was good. I liked it. It was a good one-shot. Again, you probably would read this a little bit more if you've been reading Birds of Prey. It was a good ending to Birds of Prey, and just seeing what I've read from it. But yeah, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. I thought it was a good issue. I did give it 3 stars previously, but I did bump it up to 3.5. Alright, so now we're up to number 14, which is The Amazing Spider-Man, issue 6. A little bit more of a filler issue, and that's why it's a lot lower than Amazing Spider-Man should be on the countdown. So it's a bit of a filler because we get to see the end of the Black Cat story. And did Peter have his identity revealed? No, of course it was a cop-out. Like, I wasn't surprised. It was kind of a funny cop-out, though, because J. Jonah Jameson was covering the camera, and it was his fault. And Silksaber is able to save the day. Black Cat's trying to go up the ranks to become this big villain of New York. So we see that in this issue. Also, Electro is able to heal, get cured in this issue, which was kind of cool. We see a new place for Silk, where she gets a job at J. Jonah Jameson's news station, which I thought was really cool. Hopefully we'll see more of that in Spider-Woman, and my hope is really to see more of Silk. I hope it's not one of those one-shot characters like Alpha, which I'm glad we haven't seen Alpha, but just saying, hopefully, we get to see Silk really grow into her own and not just be part of the story arc and really become a character for years to come, because I like her character. And I actually think she made this issue. Silk was the MVP of the issue more than Black Cat and, honestly, Peter. Because this was very of a filler. It was very much a filler issue, but I also love Ramos's art in this book a lot, which really brought the issue for me a little bit up. I think this would have been a little weaker if it wasn't so great, the artwork. I love his artwork here. So, yeah, I mean, filler issue to get to Spider-Verse, but it was okay. I think it's worth picking up. You get enough here to say it's worth picking up, but it is very much a filler issue. So, 3.5 stars. Alright, so number 13 is Edge of Spider-Verse, Spider-Man Noir, issue 1. I really like this issue. This has actually surprised me more than I thought I was going to like this issue. I'm not a big Spider-Man Noir fan. I've read a couple of issues here and there. I'm not a big Noir fan in general, so I didn't expect to like this because I'm not a big, like, dark art type fan. But honestly, I want to actually applaud the art. I think they balanced darkness and light here so well that it wasn't too dark, but you felt that tone. So I applaud the art here. I really love the artwork. I think that brought the issue up a lot more for me, too. But overall, I thought it was a good story. We get to see that Spider-Man Noir, a little bit more of his life. If you've never read Spider-Man Noir, that's okay. You get enough information here. We get to see some of those secondary characters where they're at in this universe. Like Mary Jane, she fought, like, in this Abraham Lincoln of something. Like, Abraham Lincoln, something in Spain. She fought in, like, the army for 3 years. Thought that was pretty cool that they powered Mary Jane here. Aunt May was pretty much the same Aunt May except like a different universe, so that's okay. But everyone was very much in character, honestly more in character than we see in Amazing Spider-Man, so I applaud Spider-Man Noir for that. And even Felicia Hardy, we get to see a different version of Felicia where her face is damaged and she wears a mask, so there's some really cool secondary character stuff here. And then Peter was very much in character too. Even though he's a noir character, he was very much did the things that Peter Parker would do. By the end of the issue, we get to see that Peter is trying to save Felicia Hardy from Mysterio, because Mysterio wants to capture Spider-Man, and Superior Spider-Man saves the day and captures Spider-Man Noir to I guess, recruit help for this whole Spider-Verse thing, because the guy wants to kill all these Spider-Men. This assassin. So, I thought it tied into Spider-Verse really well. I think this is what's going to happen in all the Spider-Verse stories for Edge of Spider-Verse, which I'm super excited for the next one with Gwen Stacy. I saw the preview for that. So excited for the Gwen Stacy story. But yeah, overall I liked it. I thought this was a good issue. Did it blow my mind saying, oh my god, I have to read more Spider-Man Noir? No, but I thought it hit all the points. There were some really interesting little references. It made characters their own in this universe. And I liked it. I thought it was good. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. Good issue. And now we're getting to like really good issues. Again, there's just so many comics. I know it feels low down, but there's a lot of good issues this week. So let's move on to number 12, which is Morning Glories, issue 40. Morning Glories is a very confusing series, so you have to really concentrate when you're reading Morning Glories. Even though the art's not simple, but it's bright. You wouldn't think of how complicated it gets. But I love how complicated the story is, because it makes you think. But love the art by Joe Eisma. Love his artwork for this series. And this is one of my favorite indie series. It's just a really fun, smart series. Smartest series I'm reading right now is Morning Glories. So, with this issue, we get to see a little bit more about Ian, and he's one of the newer students, which I'm not a big fan that Morning Glories is concentrating on the newer students more than our old group that we knew and love, and why we grew attached to the series was our old students. We don't really get to see them shine as much. This is about Ian, where his father comes as like a special teacher, which is a little weird already, because like, oh, new people, the Morning Glories, you never see that. And you learn a little bit more about Morning Glory's reality in a way because of the father. And you learn more about Ian. And Ian was in love with, I think her name was Akiko, the one that got trapped. Pretty sure her name was Akiko. We get to see him, that he was in love with Akiko. And the person who's trapped, his friends, let me see his name. I know I'm not going to pronounce it right. Fortino. He was in love with Akiko, so Ian's like, hey, you know what, I just want to kill you, so I'm going to really hurt you, and I'm gonna manipulate reality. And you see that famous cylinder, that's where Casey kind of like ruined her life with that cylinder, because Mrs. Hodge said to go into the cylinder. So again, it gets really confusing, but what I loved about this was the theories on reality, because we don't know where Morning Glories is. We don't know what time period it is. It's like its own reality in a way, and I love that about this. And I think it does really well to try to have theories on Morning Glories in general and how these realities work. I guess the mystery of the cylinder in a way too, trying to figure that out. And I love that by the end, Ian says to his father, is like, well, if we don't exist, reality still does, because the father's pretty much saying, if we're not there to observe reality, if we're not there to observe the molecules, then the world wouldn't exist. So Ian says to his father, no, if we're there not to observe the molecules, yeah, maybe it won't explode, but it's still there. So obviously it gets very very deep, I would say. It gets very deep, and I really liked how they explored Morning Glories, and I think they did it in simplest terms. It wasn't obviously very simple. It's this whole speech about reality and what's reality. It's a deep question, but it connects very well to the series to try to dig deeper into this mythology of why this is all happening. And even though I'm not a big Ian fan, and I feel like everyone's turning to the dark side, which kind of disappoints me. I don't think it's a twist anymore because everyone's turning into the dark side. But I did like this issue because, again, it digs into the reality of Morning Glories. And how does Ian know more about reality than his father? And it seems like he knows about the cylinder, the one person who really knows how to control it. And could he be the big bad because of it? Interesting stuff. So I give it 4 stars. I think it gets a little confusing at times. This is definitely a series you would have to like read a couple of times to kind of get the story, but that's what's so cool about it. You can't just read it once and be like, oh, all right, next. You really gotta think, and it's a thinking type series. So really enjoyed it. I'm gonna give it 4 stars. Okay, let's move on to number 11, which is a new series I've read. Imperial, issue 2. I was surprised with this series. I think it's a really solid series that, I mean, I can't say, oh my god, Imperial, can't wait for the next issue. But it's really solid. I liked it. I think it builds up its own mythology. It's about this guy who's chosen by this superhero Imperial. He loves superheroes, and this guy thinks he's going crazy. He's like, I'm seeing this superhero, I'm about to get married, I think I'm going crazy. But Imperial wants him to become a superhero, and he's got a question. Like, he just wants a normal life. He wants to live with the person he loves. You know, he wants to spend the rest of his life with her. But all this craziness is happening. So I like that. I thought, and the artwork really works. The coloring was great. I'm intrigued. I want to see where the series goes. So I gave it 4 stars. I thought this was really solid. And there was a really fun running joke here where Imperial's like, I've seen the rings of Saturn. I've seen everything. And our main character says, have you had s'mores? He's like, what s'mores? And he eats s'mores, and now I feel like this is going to be a running joke for the series. So I think it's going to be fun. I liked it. I want to see where it goes. Alright, let's move on to the next issue. Next number is number 10. We're up to top 10 already. Alright. Top 10. 10, Goddess Inc. issue 2. Technically a lot higher than it was, because Goddess Inc. was actually a lot lower on the list for issue 1. I didn't love it. Issue 1, it seemed like you really needed to learn more about the gods of the series, which I actually want to learn more about. So if you guys want to recommend in the comments what issues I should read for Godstorm to learn more about these characters, so tell me, because I really want to learn more about Venus and everyone else, so be sure to recommend. But going back to it, I thought this issue was just a lot better. We learned a little bit more about the characters as a new reader, and how Venus is a bitch. She just wants to rule the world, and the other gods are trying to figure out a way to defeat her. And the detective, I don't know which god she is, but the detective, she's one of the goddesses also that's going up against Venus, and she has a normal life, and her husband is the ex-husband of Venus. So Venus wants to kill this ex-husband. Spoiler alert, she does. She kills the ex-husband, and I'm excited to see how that plays out. So I thought this issue was really good. The art is really good. I think it fits the series very well. I think this is just a lot more intriguing than the last issue. And I'm excited to see where it goes. Again, we've seen Venus in Godstorm also. Godstorm Hercules Pain. I thought she was interesting there. And she's a really cool villain. So looking forward to see where this goes and what the other gods do. And I love that the gods are like normal people. And then you see them as these gods. I think that's why I really want to see the origin story, see that they were normal people first and then find out they're gods. That's pretty cool. Especially the detective and the Venus. I want to see how they found out they were gods. Because you know that they were normal people before this and then found out they were god. They were Zeus. They were all these different characters. So that's definitely the intriguing part, and I think it's something different. Alright, so number 9 is Smallville Chaos, issue 2. A solid issue. I liked it. I can't say it's the best issue of Smallville, but still a very, very solid issue. We get to see that Lois and Clark, they're trying to run away from this reality that's about to be destroyed. And Lois has to convince Jor-El to transport them. Jor-El's like, I don't know if I could do this. He's like, please try. And I loved some of these Smallville moments where Jor-El was never that caring person, and he was grieving over the Superman of that world. And I love Lois's comments because it felt so much like Erica Durant's of Smallville. I think she's so much in character with that scene. And we get to see that they're transported to another world, which Darkseid is taking over. And that's the whole story for that. And we get to see some other stories like Booster Gold trying to save Emil working for Lex, and that's pretty much it for that. I wasn't really interested in the Lex Emil story as much as I was the Clark and Lois story. as much I do like Lex in this series. I think they do him well. I just didn't care that much. I think that's what brought the issue a little bit more, brought it down a little bit more, was the whole Lex story. But I like this issue. Again, it reminded me so much of some great Smallville moments, not just Superman moments. It reminded me of Smallville, which is great to see. Great artwork also. I do like the art style they use for the series. So, overall, good issue. I'm going to give it 4 stars, and we'll see where it goes. I liked it a lot. I love this series. I love what Brian Q. Miller's been doing. Alright, so we're up to number 8 now, which is Grimm Fairy Tales, issue 102. A series that's really impressed me. I just started really reading this series. I need to go back for this series too. A lot of Zenescope catching up because I just started reading Zenescope, but I gotta get some of those back issues. But with Grimm Fairy Tales, I love the twist that they use of fairy tales that we all know and love, and with this, it's Aladdin. It seems like a lot of people are using Aladdin lately, and we see an evil genie, and it reminded me a lot of Fairy Oddparents, actually, with the whole genie being evil and doesn't actually give you your wish and twist the wish in a way. So it reminded me a lot of that show, honestly, in a really cool way. But we had to see the wishes of our new recruits for the Red Knights, and we see that our Aladdin, our Ali, he did not want the genie to escape, and he was trying to learn more about the genie to bring his mother back. So we learn a lot more about these characters, which is great. Usually with these type of series where you have new recruits, it's like, do I really care about the new recruits? No, I care about our main characters. But with this issue, I think this is actually a great way to introduce everybody. And they do it in a really wonderful way with their wishes. So, very solid issue. This was another week. This totally could have been my top 5. But there's just so many great books here. Really impressed. I'm looking forward to see what they do more with Grimm Fairy Tales. Let's move on to number 7. Hawkeye, issue 20. Now, this is something I am so torn with because it was a really good issue. I love the story. It was actually everything I wanted in a story. We get to see Kate finally talk about her father, which you could probably see previous reviews of mine where I talk about Kate saying she's so rich, she has such an intriguing family. Why did they never talk about this family? And finally the father is being brought into a story. He's working with the villain in a way. And by the end of the story, Kate tries to defeat Madame Mask and doesn't end up doing it. With the help of the friends she's made in LA, she doesn't defeat Madame Mask, and she learns that her father's behind this and say, hey, I'm going to get to you later, but I got to help my friend Clint. So it seems like she probably didn't win her battle, but hopefully she'll win the battle with Clint when she goes back to New York, which we all expect that she's going to go back to New York by the end of this issue. At least I expected that, because the series is going to end, which I'm sad about. I do like Hawkeye, so I'm upset about it. So if I like this story so much, why is it a little bit lower than it should be? This story was so out of order, and it pulled me out of the story a lot. There's one page where Kate will be burning someone's house down, and then the next page she's in jail. Another page where it's 5 issues previously, and then she's in jail. It was so out of order, even when she was talking to her father. Like, I felt like they tried to do it for dramatic effect, but they did it way too much. It took me out of the story, honestly. It was so unorganized, this issue, and that disappointed me a lot. Now, why isn't this issue lower, you say? Because the story was actually really good. Again, with Kate not actually winning, her interacting with her recurring cast for LA, her finally encountering her father. There's some really great moments, great artwork, so that's why it was a 4-star book that should have been a 5-star book. If this was in order, this probably could have been a 4.5, 5-star book. So that disappointed me a lot because it had so much potential, but it's out of order. So disappointing. But I like this issue at the same time, and that's why I'm so torn apart with it. I'm going to give it 4 stars. I know it's actually a lot higher because I like the story, and I look forward to what Kate does with her father. Hopefully they don't, like, leave that on a cliffhanger and just end the series. I hope they encounter that when she goes to New York, and, like, Clint finishes his thing and Kate finishes hers. Maybe it just shows that Clint and Kate have to be on a team, or else they both can't finish their missions. So we'll see. I'm excited to see how it ends, but yeah, that was kind of weird, this issue. So, a little torn on that one. So let's move on to number 6. Captain Marvel, issue 7. I had a blast with this. You know, again, there's just so many great books. This easily could have been a top 5 book in another week, but there's just a lot of books and a lot of good books this week. So Captain Marvel brings us back to a really fun story with Flarkins and Rocket Raccoon. Captain Marvel, she's trying to protect her cat, and Rocket Raccoon is taking care of the cat. Now, people are attacking the ship to try to get her cat for some reason. And Captain Marvel's like, why are people trying to get my cat? And then Rocket Raccoon's been saying this cat is a Flarkin. And by the end of the issue, we find out that the cat's a Flarkin. I was honestly kind of shocked. I love that. I love that twist that this cat's a Flarkin, and I thought that was hilarious. The artwork's so cool for this series. I had a blast with this issue. I loved it. It was so fun. This is where Captain Marvel always should be. Just have fun issues like this. I think it's an improvement from that really long story arc that I felt like was a little bit too stretched out. But I liked it. I really liked this. I think Captain Marvel has improved so much since its last series, just in Marvel Now. And it's the same writers, Kelly Sue DeConnick, but I think the improved artwork, kind of different story direction, it works really well. Love this issue. It was so good. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. It's close to 4.5, but I'm going to give it 4 stars. Had a blast with it. Alright, so number 5. Miss Marvel, issue 8. I'm glad it made the top 5. Really fun issue. I actually thought this was going to be a little bit more of a filler issue than it was. It was a bit of a filler issue, but at the same time, it actually really integrated into the Inventor story. We get to see Lockheed is joining, Lockjaw is, why did I say Lockheed? Lockjaw is joining the team for Miss Marvel. She gets a new pet. Her parents don't know how to feel about it. And she's trying to save the people that the Inventor stole. So we get to see this like little machine jump onto Miss Marvel, and she has to run to school because she's late. So because this machine jumped onto Miss Marvel, it attacks the school. Let me get the page for that. It attacks the school, and Miss Marvel gets really hurt. So Camilla is going to have to heal herself, but she can't transform her face with when she heals herself. So how is she going to fight this monster and let people not know she's Miss Marvel? So since this is such a new character, maybe she will reveal herself as Miss Marvel. We don't know. She's a new character. We don't know her destiny. I really liked it. I liked the cliffhanger, even though it's kind of more of a generic superhero cliffhanger. I thought it was fun. You know, this whole issue was really fun. Her getting a dog, her growing into herself as a superhero. This is such a great book. I love it. Even though this is a little bit of a filler issue, it worked really well. And you still have a lot of fun with it. And I thought the cliffhanger was fun. I'm excited to see where it goes. And again, I do think it tied into Inventor really well, even though it's like a little bit of a filler. So I'm going to give this 4 stars. I liked it. I thought it was a really good issue. I had fun with that one. Number 4. Superman Unchained, issue 8. I was really surprised at this, because Superman Unchained, actually issue 7 was really high on my list last time also. Issue 8 was the same. Even though the series is delayed a lot. Like, this series should have ended a long time ago. I thought this was a really action-packed issue. It's pretty much the battle between Wrath and Superman. But Superman was very Superman here, which I loved. He thinks very smartly he thinks very well to how to defeat Wrath. And Wrath is a lot smarter than Superman, but he figures out a way to defeat him. Now, the only thing I didn't like about this issue, and why maybe it wasn't a little higher, which is already really high on my list already, but was the last part. I felt like they were kind of continuing the story that didn't have to be continued. We get to see Lex Luthor's like, wait, there's an invasion, Superman. You have to become a bomb to defeat the invasion. And I'm like, do we really need that? Like, do we have to bring Lex Luthor into this? I thought it could have been a good ending, end with Wrath, give us like another issue to conclude stuff with General Lane and Lois. Beautiful ending. But we have to have, you know, Lex's story. I didn't think we actually needed it. So it was only a page. It was like a page of the story. But the rest of it was some great action. I love the battle between Wrath and Superman. Great artwork. I think this is probably some of Jim Lee's best artwork for this series. And yeah, it was just really fun. I liked it a lot. And it surprised me. This issue really did surprise me. So I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. Action-packed, but we'll see where the next issue goes in like another 5 months, because you know it's going to be delayed. Alright, so let's move on to number 3. Which is Invincible, issue 114. good issue. Really, really emotional issue. We get to see a little bit more of Robot, his point of view. And what I loved about it is that you actually get into his head a lot in this issue. Most villains would be like, well, I'm just trying to do the good for the world, where I'm just going to kill all these people to save more. Very utopian idea. And he's definitely wants a utopia here. And Invincible tries to confront Robot saying, why are you doing this? And Robot's like, I don't want to hurt you. That's not the point. I want to make this world better. I don't even want to put my face on this good deed. I just want the world to be a better place. And even, you know, Invincible's father is cool with it. So Invincible feels very defeated. He doesn't know what to do. And my favorite part of the issue, what really made the issue, was the last scene, where Robot, after he discusses with Invincible what he has to do, he thinks about his past and what he's been through, and this is the most powerful panel. He doesn't know if he's doing the right thing. I love that. It just got so much into the villain's head, and I don't think you see that enough in superhero comics. And that's what really made the issue, honestly, was that one panel of him just looking down. It just, so powerful. And I loved how supportive Adam Eve was in this issue, too. That's something you need. After Adam Eve was pushing Invincible away, pushing him away, it was really great to see that. She was very supportive here. Love the issue. I thought it was really good. Great, great artwork. I think Ryan Ottley just has amazing artwork here. So yeah, I'm going to give it 4.5 stars. Really impressed by Invincible. So let's move on to number 2, which is Death of Wolverine, issue 2. Man, this series is blowing my mind right now. If you're a Wolverine fan, it pulls all the stops. We get to see Wolverine. He's very weak. He's still weak, and he goes up against Viper. And Viper brings Sabretooth out, saying, I'm controlling Sabretooth. You guys go fight. And then we get to see Lady Deathstrike come into the building and saying, I was the person who Viper hired. Well, I hired Viper to come face-to-face to you because we're both on the same list of someone wanting to kill us. And then she finds out, ooh, Wolverine doesn't have his powers. Maybe I could trade Wolverine for my own freedom. So we find out that Ogon is the person who has Wolverine on the list. So Lady Deathstrike, she's ready to kill Wolverine. And the person who saves Wolverine, Kitty Pryde. Second favorite character ever is Kitty Pryde. My second favorite superhero. And to see Kitty Pryde save the day and have a Kitty Pryde-centric issue next issue, which I'm super excited about, which I'll explain a little bit more why that's so important to them in Japan. This was great. Again, it just brings all the stops for Wolverine, and also the artwork is beautiful. Love the artwork here. I love Charles Soule's dialogue, and again, pulls all the stops of who Wolverine truly is. And I have to show you this page with Iron Man. His helmet, I thought worked so well, just how his helmet works here. Loved this issue. So, with the ending, with Ogon, him being the one who has Wolverine on the list, why does this mean so much? First of all, Ogon is pretty much the devil incarnated, and Wolverine has a big past. But if you read the Wolverine Kitty Pryde series, and why Kitty Pryde's so important to be in the ending, because Kitty Pryde and Wolverine have a wonderful relationship, which I don't think shines enough in recent years. But we get to see in Wolverine Kitty Pryde that Kitty Pryde was controlled by Ogon, and that's how she got close with Wolverine, because Wolverine taught her how to fight. She became a ninja. She had to cut off all her hair because Ogon made her cut her hair. Again, because she was being controlled by the devil, and Wolverine taught her to have strength, and she had to pick up the sword and have the sword up all day. So it was such a great miniseries, and that's how Kitty changed a lot. She changed as a character and picked her name Shadowcat. So going back to it, that one name, Ogon, is just so important to the Wolverine mythos, and also just Kitty Pryde and Wolverine, and that's why that cliffhanger meant so much. And why them going to Japan is going to mean so much, is just to bring back to that story, which you don't get to see that often, but is a very important story to both these characters. So, love this issue, and that cliffhanger definitely means more than just, Kitty Pryde's there. It definitely was a great cliffhanger. So, 4.5 stars. Loved it. Loved this issue. Can't wait for the next issue. Man, I've been loving Death of Wolverine. I'm so shocked by it. Alright, so what was number 1? What beat that? And that is Batgirl Futures End, issue 1. And let me show you the cover. Damn, this was a great issue. Gail Simone says goodbye in the most perfect way by not just devoting and giving homage to Barbara, but giving the ending to the legacy of Batgirl. We get to see some really familiar faces, but let me describe the story. We get to see that Barbara, she has a happy ending, marrying a police officer who's also a redhead, and James Gordon Jr. ruins the day, and James Gordon Jr. tells her husband to jump off the building or Barbara's gonna die. And he jumps because he is a nice, strong guy. And Barbara breaks down, she punches James Gordon Jr., breaking ribs for him, and now she's on a mission. Barbara Gordon's dead. She's on a mission. She becomes minions for all these villains and is able to defeat the villains because of it. And her last stop is Bane. She learns how to become strong with Bane, or stronger, because we already know Barbara Gordon's a strong character. She becomes very strong, and she leaves, and then we see present time, or 5 years later, Futures End time. And we get to see these 3 Batgirls. One who's a little bit of a new character. She's a very smart 12-year-old. And Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain. All 3 of them being Batgirl. And Bane, Batgirl, helping them, being their mentor. So, by the end of the issue, we get to see Bane and Barbara Gordon come face to face, and Bane's like, I know why you're here, why you never killed me, or ever destroyed me. It's because you want your back to be broken again, and you want to be paralyzed. You want to die. And I thought that was such a great moment, and Barbara Gordon says, and she has to think about it, maybe she did, maybe I do want to die. She's like, no, I actually don't. And she punches Bane, and she's like, you know what? I didn't even take the serum. I made myself this way. So she built a Bane body herself. And she hugs her Batgirl legacy. She hugs her family. I thought that was just, everything was on par with this issue. Great artwork. The story, this is the ending for Gail Simone. Even more than the last issue, this was a great ending. First of all, just going into the Batgirls. Picking those 3 Batgirls was great. Stephanie Brown, just giving homage to Stephanie Brown and Cassandra Cain, A. But B, because all 3 of those characters have something from Barbara Gordon. Stephanie Brown being that fun, brave character. And I love what Gail Simone states here, where one of the girls says, wow, that girl's pretty stupid, Stephanie Brown. And he's like, no, she's brave. Love that, because that's so true. She's a brave heart. So Stephanie Brown is that fun, brave heart that you see with Barbara Gordon. Cassandra Cain, more that strong fighter, Barbara Gordon. And then this 12-year-old girl is a very smart girl. She's, I won't say good with technology, but she's very smart. Barbara Gordon. All 3 of those characters create Barbara Gordon. And I thought that was just such a great way to end. And then I honestly loved the Bane part. I thought that was going to be kind of stupid. I was like, Barbara is Bane? That's like, I don't know how to feel about that. But they did it in such a perfect way. And that backstory was so good. Such a great issue. One of the best issues I've read in a really long time. 5 stars easily. Such a good issue. Loved it. And even though there was 22 issues, and a lot of great issues this week, this was the easiest pick of the week to pick. It was just such a good read. And if you're a Barbara Gordon fan, if you're just a Batgirl fan, it pays tribute to Barbara Gordon and who she is and why she's a strong character, and pays tribute to the Batgirl legacy. Perfect. Pick of the week. Hope you guys enjoyed. That was number 1. Please tell me in the comments below what was your pick of the week. What was your worst pick of the week? Everything in between, the comics you read and you enjoyed. Please tell me in the comments below. Hope you guys enjoyed. And of course, I'll have Comic You Know episode 65 next week. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter for Comic You Know and the Rant Situations. Don't forget to like my Facebook page. Also, in the description below, there's links for my comic book, Like Father, Like Daughter. Don't forget to like the Facebook page of Like Father, Like Daughter also. So I'll see you guys later. Bye.